I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. Please be seated. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Before I ask for a motion to approve the agenda, I'm going to make a motion for approval to amend the agenda. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Can we add a motion to add to the agenda?
We need to state what it is.
Yeah, I'm going to. Okay, I'm going to make a motion for approval to add to the agenda. Action, if any, to approve school board policy LC-G19 early retirement incentive program, and add that under 9F. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now, with the addition of that to the agenda, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have recognition.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, struggling with technology a little bit, so I'm going to try to read a list of names from a distance. These are students who are part of the KTN write-in, and these are viewable on the screen to your right as you're sitting in the audience. Maybe if I'm leaving right. There we go. From Elydale Elementary, we have
I'm giving you my computer.
I was going to say. Cooper Beeler, Cameron Grable, Chloe Long, Chloe Markham, Savannah Seal, and Jalen Wilder. From Pennington Middle, we have Blake Calton, Alicia Grizzle, Madison Jesse, Cody Lane, Emily Scott, Alexis Turner, and Tristan Wyrick. Again, this is just recognition of our students who are doing a tremendous job with artwork, and want to really point out that as we go along, if I can get technology to cooperate again, with some of the drawings. If you look on board docs, we actually have the drawings that came out of the Kingsport Times News. So these students do an incredible job with that. The next item on the agenda, and I'll show you this as we're going along, but there's some examples of the writings, the drawings, the work of our students, which again is just incredible work by our students, but then also incredible support by our teachers. So appreciate the efforts that are made there, and also for Miss Jessie taking the time to share that information with us. The next thing is recognition of students from Lee High School who competed in the Young Playwrights Festival. We had Derek Brodden and Anthony Dotson, who were awarded being finalists for a play entitled Decisions. Again, on board docs we have a lot more details on this, but congratulations to Alex Long, who's the English teacher at Lee High School, as well as to those two students, and also to Annabelle Alsop, who was honored as a semifinalist for her play entitled Salem. So just demonstration of how well our students perform, not only in Lee County Public Schools, but also throughout the region. So.
Next on the agenda is public comment. Is there anyone that has any public comment? Okay, if not, move on to the consent agenda. First is approval of minutes from the November 10th, 2016 regular meeting. Do we have a motion?
I just moved the consent agenda consisting of the minutes of the November 10th, 2016 regular meeting, approval of claims and expenditures, and approval of field trip requests.
Do we have a second? I'll second. Discussion? All in favor signify by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, reports of the board. Anyone have any reports?
Just two. just wanted to mention that the legislative position and the bylaw amendment change that I brought up last meeting, all of them were approved. The first two legislative agendas, there was a little bit of debate on them, but they all ended up passing. One thing in the legislative amendment 2 about technology, it's nice to know that we're already to the goal of the 1 gigabyte already, where some of the other school systems aren't. And I did attend the facility study meeting at Lehigh and look forward to the final report.
Any other board comments? Next, we'll move to reports of the division superintendent.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, first of all, want to recognize the school with the highest percentage of enrollment for the month of November, and you can see for the second consecutive month, Pennington ended up second and Elydale ended up first with 94.9% attendance. Incredible participation by those students and then also support by those families. And again, want to recognize Elydale specifically because 3 out of the 4 months we've operated, they've had the highest percentage of attendance. So hats off to that community as well as to that school for making sure that those students are in school and appreciate the support. Next thing on the agenda is our enrollment for the month of December. And again, this is on board docs, but our enrollment as far as a head count was down 7 more students. We're down to 3,026 students, which puts us 4 below our budgeted number. Now, our average daily membership, if you take the average of our membership from August, September, October, we're still at 3,041. But that's 11 more than budgeted, but again, our overall enrollment is below what we budgeted. So that's something we're continuing to look into as far as a reason. Again, that's down 7 from last month, and overall that's down 48 from last year. So again, a trend that we're concerned about continuing to monitor, especially from an accounting standpoint. Any questions? Next thing on the agenda is operations update. This is something new to the agenda that we'll be providing as part of the superintendent's updates, but we want to provide some information to the board as well as to the public about the variety of things that we do in our buildings. We have, I'm going to say, encumbered a process as far as a facility study, but on a regular basis, our staff works to maintain buildings. And I don't mean just the division staff, but also the school staff. And this is a list of the various things, the various items that were corrected at each school, work that was done, issues that were addressed. And some of this is visible and some of this is not. So, we want to make sure that everybody's aware of what's going on in operations as far as maintenance of our facilities, that it's not just custodians coming in and emptying the trash. There's a lot more stuff that we do, and our buildings are in very, very good shape from a maintenance standpoint. Any questions? Not going to read that to you. Next on the list, Mark III has been in the school division this week, meeting with our employees, and we have Dr. Vicki Brown, our Director of Human Resources, here this evening, who's going to speak to you about what's been going on with that process. So, Dr. Brown.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I have a printout here with everything on. The dates that Mark III was held this evening. And then I'll answer any questions that you have. Brief summary of what we've done with Mark III since we hired him as our consulting group. I've only highlighted a couple of things, but it's there for you to go and read, and that way if you have previous questions after today, that's fine. You can email me or call and we'll answer them. But pretty much the biggest thing that we've been doing here this week is working with our voluntary benefits. When we started working with Mark III as a consulting group, we were currently working with 11 different voluntary providers. And now we're going to be working with them as the consulting group, offering the same benefits. And they have, if you'll go down to the second paragraph, so far they've met with 422 of our staff this week. And they finish tomorrow, so we're hoping to have met with every staff in the county. Of course, I'm sure we'll miss a few, but it has been available tremendously in the schools. They've had 7 in benefit counselors in our schools this week, 7 different counselors. We've also, some of the new things that they've been able to help us offer is the flexible benefits account, and that's where you're able to do non-tax savings for your medical benefits. That's new to Lee County. They're also, that's a big tax savings, and they said that several of our employees have done that. And the thing to recognize is this is a short benefit enrollment. We'll have another one in July, so this is just what we're doing right now. Other things they've been looking at that they've tried to help some staff with is some of us have like signed up for 2 or 3 different disability or short-term disability benefits. Where we had 11 different providers. We went in and may have signed up, not know what we've had. So they've tried to counsel our staff and said, what's best for you? Is it something you currently have, or is it something that we can also offer you? So they've tried to help do a lot of savings there. And when I spoke with the gentleman tonight, John, he did tell me that they were able to save a lot of our staff some money on that end, just in counseling which is the best benefit currently you have or a new one that you want to look at. We also have a new vision plan that we didn't have previously that offers the provider's coverage for glasses and contacts plus a compensatory eye exam every 12 months, and that's something brand new that we did not have. Like I said, that's one of the reasons that we wanted a consulting group, so they could analyze our data. And up on the very top, you can see that we're also going to be looking at our group medical plan in January to try to help with the budget to see if we can find something that's more beneficial. So any other questions?
I have some questions.
Okay.
I've had some phone calls about the benefits that are offered and how those interact with what people have presently in place. In other words, if you have an annuity or something, they're asking, can I keep my old annuity? Can I still stay with that same company?
This isn't the annuities, it's just the voluntary benefits.
Okay, this is just voluntary.
This is just voluntary benefits.
Okay, somehow they're getting confused and they're.
I can understand why.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
We're not, I guess, so we're not messing with that.
Not at all.
Okay, just want to make
Just
sure.
a minute.
And Dr. Brown, correct me if I'm wrong, but if employees currently are doing business with Company A, this is not mandated that they start doing business with Mark III. They can still do business with
It's just
Company
an
A.
opportunity, that's correct, because
Okay.
I have several policies, plan on keeping with some of my current and looking at the new.
That's the questions I'm asking.
Absolutely.
People with Aflac or something like that.
That's right, I have a lot, I probably have 11, I probably have 6. And some of them are probably duplicates, but I'm probably gonna keep all of mine and probably get some new. But no, we didn't, and I've sent several emails, and it is hard to understand if you don't do this every day. It is very confusing, and that was one of the emails I got was annuity. And I was like, no, the annuities have nothing to do with it.
So there is a difference between an annuity in this conversation and a
Yes.
voluntary benefit. Can you give us some examples of voluntary benefits?
Voluntary benefits would be like short-term disability, long-term disability, cancer policies. I'm trying to think of some others right off. Long-term and short-term disability is the biggest one, because I probably have 2 or 3 of those myself. We have some that, we just have 1 staff with 1 company, and 3 staff with 1 other company. And it's probably companies, and one of the providers that I contacted the other day was no longer even our provider. He had retired, but he was kind enough to connect me to the new person in Knoxville that, that I could work with that, if our staff does want to continue with them, they can. Because some of the policies they have, people like some of the cancer policies, that's the biggest one you'll hear about. People want to keep that because after 20 years, well, if they've been with them 17 or 18 years, we're telling them, do not drop that because you're going to get a benefit.
Yeah, I just want to make sure
Yes.
people understood we're not messing
No,
with
not
what
at
you
all.
got.
It has nothing to do with annuities.
Well, and that's, but they are maybe changing how their premium is taken out of their paycheck though.
Only thing, it would go to bank draft instead of payroll deduction. That is the difference.
And for the board's clarification, that's a difference between whether or not we process the payment for the employee or whether the money, your employee's paycheck is deposited into their checking account and then the money is removed by the company A or whoever that they've got that policy with. So
And what we
it's
do-
the same coverage, it's just a
Same
matter of
coverage.
how they write the check.
Yeah,
It's
the
like using a
benefits-
debit card or a check.
Their benefits won't change, their premium won't change. It's just, do we write the check for them or do you have it taken out of your own checking account? That's
And
the-
operationally, we're trying to get to where we have a select number of vendors with whom for whom we write checks. We don't want to have 30 different vendors that we write checks for, and each vendor has 1 employee. We're trying to streamline some of this and make sure that we're providing benefits to our employees, but also maintaining the history that they've got.
And we'll get things like if there's an issue, because after this, we can pick up the phone and make 1 phone call, no matter what policy you have, and speak with 1 person, and that person can investigate and see what we can do to help our employees.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah.
Dr. Brown, thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is an update on the facility study and online survey. And what that is is of course with the facility study, we are expecting to have a draft of the facility study sometime in early January and the final version of it in February for discussion in the upcoming budget process. And also want to point out on our website, if you go to if I can see from a distance. Ms. Snodgrass, could you help me and get us to our website?
You're there.
No, I'm talking the Lee County website. There is a survey that is available that anybody can go on there and basically participate in this facility study. You can scroll down about 2/3 of the way. There's a link, facility study, public input. And if you click on that link, it will take you to a survey where you will choose whether you're a parent, an employee, whether you're a student, and you can select multiple options. And this will go through and ask questions very similar to what was asked at the public input meetings. So that this will allow everybody to participate in this as we go along and help the school board prioritize what we need to be working on from a budgetary standpoint with our facilities. So we should get some tremendous feedback from this and look forward to getting the results of this again early in the budget conversations next month. So
It's the first link down the page on the first page of the school board's website. It says facility study, public input.
Right. Okay, next thing is update on the joint board meeting. Tuesday night, we had a meeting with school board and the board of supervisors to discuss a variety of things from the facility study, the salary study, and in my opinion, it was a very informative meeting, good conversations, and the PowerPoint is linked on board docs if anybody's interested in seeing that, as well as the meeting that was listed on December 6th. So any questions on that? Next, we have a school board policy that is set up as a superintendent's regulation, which means that it is more or less a day-to-day operational thing for us. But this item hits all of us. And what we have done is basically defined inclement weather codes. In the past, we've communicated a variety of different ways, but we're trying to clarify that as we get into inclement weather, whether it be snow, sleet, freezing rain, just cold temperatures, that we're communicating clearly with the community. And what we're going to have in place is a Code 1, which is basically a 2-hour delay. We will coordinate with our operations, transportation staff, VDOT, and a variety of others to help make determinations on that. And there's kind of an unwritten rule that if the temperature is less than 20 degrees, we operate on a 2-hour delay. That's an unwritten rule that, depending on where you are in the county, it might be 19 degrees. In another part of the county, it might be 22. So we're not going to define it as a clean. If it's not less than 20 degrees in Jonesville, we're going to take a look at it operationally. Code 3, that will be no students will be in school, teachers will not be in school, but 12-month staff will report at regular time unless they can't get there safely, and at that time, if they can't get to work by 10 o'clock, they'll coordinate leave with their direct supervisor. And then a Code 4 would be if something is declared as pretty much a state of emergency and it's not safe to travel in Lee County, and we will shut down everything except for essential personnel, which in this instance would be the superintendent, transportation operations, the principal, and the head custodian. Somebody will need to go check the building to make sure that we don't have a water leak or something like that. And then also every 3 days we have to check buildings, and that's Code of Virginia because of our freezers and refrigerators in the cafeteria. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
When this posted, is it going to be posted as like Code 1, Code 3, Code 4, or will it be 2-hour delay?
No, we will say Lee County Public Schools will be operating Code 1 today. So we will make sure we communicate this through principals, have it available on our staff. We'll probably even send this policy home in newsletters to parents as we go through the next couple of weeks, anticipating weather in January. Any questions? Yes, sir.
So what Debbie was asking, you're just going to say Code 1.
Yes.
I mean, I would never remember that. Why don't we say Code 1, 1 hour?
I would just
Yeah.
say 2-hour delay.
Why?
Because a lot of times when you're doing the online versions, you only get to select one. I mean, you get to choose a code or a regular closing code, but I mean, if we have a 2-hour delay option, we'll put that on there.
Okay.
You can do Code 1/.
I just can't remember all those.
A lot of people.
I don't see why you just
I
don't
think it will cause confusion.
I do too.
Well, there's a difference in a Code 3 and a Code 4, and that's one of the biggest reasons. Oh. Somebody's got a question.
Code 2 is a national disaster code.
There's not a code 2 at this point, because as we've
That's
discussed,
secret. We can't discuss it.
as we've discussed, we may be looking at snow routes in the coming, well, next year possibly.
It's not public input, but you have a question? You got it, okay.
That's why it's 1, 3, and 4. Code 2 may be coming as snow routes in the foreseeable future. Next thing, we've addressed how to handle inclement weather and the impact on athletic activities, interscholastic sports, as well as other events at schools. Whether or not we'll be having those will be a determination made through this office and in consultation with the principal at each building. Any questions? Next thing is a change in payroll. One of the things that we will be doing is we will be changing our paychecks from the first of the month to the last working day of the month. This will help us with accounting, but then also communication with our employees. If the first happens to fall on a weekend, we've been kind of inconsistent over the years as to whether we pay on Friday or Monday. If we define it as the last working day of the month, then we will be able to define that more clearly for our employees. So if the first happens on a weekend, then of course they would be paid on Friday.
Next is unfinished business, which there is none. We go on to action discussion items. First, we have action, if any, to approve school board policy GCBC-BR, hours of employment of substitutes. Do you want to address that for us?
Yes, sir. As proposed, this is a change to basically address when an employee would be eligible for benefits as health insurance. We have had in the past employees who would, substitutes who would work for 4 days, and then we would have another substitute come in on Friday to address a long-term sub situation in order to avoid paying health insurance. As proposed, this would basically allow, with the superintendent's permission, my permission, to be able to pay that employee for the 5 days, keep the instruction consistent, and then also when that employee becomes eligible for health insurance, as we do our 6-month look back, then we would provide a list to the school board of the employees that are either approaching eligibility or eligible for being for having health insurance made available to them.
Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve policy GCBC-BR, hours of employment of substitutes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I do want to follow up. One of the reasons this policy came about is because the Affordable Care Act made certain requirements as far as employees working a certain number of hours. If they did, you had to provide insurance. A lot of requirements that are involved in that. But one of the things that were happening is if you had a long-term sub, maybe you had a really good substitute classroom, they could work 4 days a week, and on the 5th day you had to pull them out and bring in another substitute. And you started over the next week. And we just decided as a board, I think, and Mr. Austin specifically, that if we got a good substitute in there, let's leave them in there for 5 straight days a week and let the children have a good teacher for 5 days instead of just maybe 4 days. So that's what brought this policy about. And so we're trying to fulfill the requirements of the ACA, plus provide a good quality education. And it won't affect everybody that's a substitute, because some people already have health insurance. Some may have Medicare. So it won't affect everybody that's a substitute, but I think it's a good thing. Anyway. Any other discussion?
That what you said, people that already have insurance, can we use them 5 days a week? Even though maybe it's not in a long-term sub, because it's hard to get subs.
Yes, ma'am. As the language, it says that if they already have health care insurance, then yes, they may do that.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, discussion of the proposed calendar for 2017-2018 school year.
On the screen, we have the proposed calendar for the next school year, and this is a little bit early in the process from what we've done historically. The intent here is to design the schedule for next year in order to assist us with building a calendar, building a schedule for our students January heading into February with course requests, etc. This is a calendar that was put together with input from Central Office Administration, principals, as well as the Teacher Communication Committee and the Support Staff Communication Committee. So a lot of feedback already, but the thing that we were putting out there is this is discussion this month. This will be up for approval next month. But as you can see, the first day of school would be a little earlier than usual, and the intent there is to make sure that we have as many instructional days as possible in the first semester. With us transitioning to a block schedule, we will need as many instructional days there than we have this year. Currently, we have 82 instructional days in the first semester. Next year, as proposed, this has 89. So we'll be able to have more instructional hours. This also has 2 in-service days that are built in one in September, one in October, with the intent of providing opportunities for our teachers to either go visit other schools to see how other things are being taught in other school divisions, as well as we give them an opportunity to get caught up on a work day in October for grades, etc., and an in-service day in September. The end of the school year would be on May the 25th. One of the things you'll notice is the blue days. These are proposed as inclement weather days. That if we do not miss school, these would be days that we would not have school. They would be days off. But if we miss school, then they would become school days, and there are 10 of those built in. And as proposed on the far right, that's the order. If we missed a day, then January 26th would be a makeup day, etc. All the way through 10 days. And again, that gets at the instructional hours, because the moment we miss one day, we go away from 180 days that we have to attend to 990 instructional hours. So this addresses both of those. Another thing I want to point out, and that we will have available on our website, is there's a link, a survey that will be made available. This is also on board docs. There's a link here where you can go in, and this is a different approach to how we've done business. Somebody can go in here and make a comment, and you can vote on it. You like it, you don't. And you can make your own comments, and you like it, you don't. Very much like what we have with likes and not likes, or Facebook, social media, so that way we're progressing something. So.
That's a discussion item, not an action item, so there's no motion needed, but is there any discussion? Not, we'll move on to action, if any, to approve new courses for the 2017-2018 school year.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, there is a list of recommended courses that we would like to add to the program of studies to make available to our students in January. This list of courses does not necessarily mean that they will be available in August. This just means that we're going to make them available to students. If there's sufficient enrollment to justify staffing those positions, then we will add this to the program of studies. This gives us the opportunity to explore some courses that we have not offered previously. So, administration recommends approval.
Some of these would need to have extra staff hired, correct?
Possibly, but to that point, it may be that if there's more interest in one of these and less interest in another, we may have to drop the course. We may not offer a particular course. The reason we're doing this now and putting in the program of studies is it may have an impact on staffing, and we want to make sure that we have that as consideration. Yes.
Okay, so following up on what Ms. Jessie said, there's a lot of classes here that potentially will be offered, but if there's not participation, then they won't be offered. But the reason we're able to offer in some situations so many new offerings and classes is because of block scheduling. Is that correct?
Yes. And again, that gets into the fact that we've said going from 28 course offerings to 32 over 4 years. We're trying to address that need also and provide opportunities for our students. As we indicated when we were having the block schedule discussion, we want to be able to provide more opportunities for our students, and this is the first step in that path.
Okay, so as far as approving the new courses as recommended by the superintendent for 2017-2018 school year, do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next, action, if any, to approve school board meeting dates for FY18 budget development process.
As presented, these are dates that are proposed as school board meetings over the coming months, I'm going to say January, February, and into March, as part of our budget development process. And these dates, if we communicate these ahead of time, we want to make sure that we have plenty of public input and also have that on your calendar.
Do we have a motion?
I make the motion that we approve the school board meeting dates for the fiscal year 18 budget.
Do we have a second? I'll second. Do we have any discussion? All in favor signify by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, action, if any, to award a contract for on-call architectural and engineering services. Request for proposal number 16-1001.
As presented, this is a recommendation to add another architectural and engineering firm to our list of available on-call architectural and engineering firms. This contract is not an award for a specific dollar amount. This is for services as needed. This provides us with the opportunity that our current on-call architectural engineering firm is busy or otherwise engaged, that we have another resource available to us to assist us with roof leaks, et cetera, other issues that happen with our facilities.
How do these rates compare to what our current architect and engineering firm?
Similar, except for the difference in travel. This firm is based in Blacksburg, and that's something that we would account for as we're going through. But on an hourly rate, these are very similar.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Question.
Yes,
This
sir.
won't, what you're saying, this won't cost us a penny unless we call these people?
Yes, sir. They're on call. If we need them to help with something, then we can call them, they'll come down, and this is with the rates that they charge us to come down to Lee County, as well as what it would cost us on an hourly basis to develop the solution to whatever problem we're having.
What are those rates when we come down
The-
to travel?
Yes. The rates, I didn't pull it. But these are consistent with an architectural engineering firm, as you can see. $600 for a base trip for one employee, $1,000 for two. Project manager at $155 an hour, all the way through a typist clerical at almost $70.
Is there not one any closer than that's in Blacksburg?
I don't know.
I mean, that's a long way up the road.
The reason that this vendor was selected, when we did a request for proposals back when we awarded this contract back in August, September, I'd have to look at the exact date. This was the firm that was selected second. So we didn't do another request for proposals. We awarded a contract to the first choice, which was awarded by a committee, and then the second choice, this is the second choice. That's where this recommendation comes from.
Long way.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Can we table this?
If you want to make a motion to table?
I'd like to make a motion to table, to look at some other options.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That'll be tabled. Next is the amended item, action if any to approve school board policy. Let me get the number right. LC-G19, which is the Lee County Public Schools Early Retirement Incentive Program. You want to address that?
The policy is what we used last year with the two plan options for the early retirement incentive, Plan 1 and Plan 2. And these are the options that we provided to last year's employees, which, as defined, depends on which one you would choose.
Okay, do we have a motion? I'll make the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Do we need to now say that this is the last year we'll offer
That's
this?
what I'm getting ready to say. So there was a proposal for early retirement that was put out there, and I think it made it to the schools yesterday or today. Got some comments about it, questions about it, rightfully so. It's a big deal for a teacher and employee to retire, and kind of how it's going to affect them financially in the future. There seemed to be some question about the lack of health care, future health care provision, which has been offered in the past. So what we are doing as a board, I take it, we'll see in a minute, is we're going to offer last year's program again. Now, I don't know if there's anybody up here that's thinking that in the future, at least the next 3 or 4 years, there's going to be another early retirement plan offered. So I would hope that if you're in the school system and you're eligible for retirement and you're thinking about it, give it careful study, because it's not going to be available, not going to be offered next year or the next year and the next year probably. So take that into consideration, please, and tell the teachers at your school that might be thinking about it.
What about, will the deadline date be January 31st to make application?
And
Yes.
that will be extended either way.
We always say it won't, we always do.
Well, but for budgeting
Already
reasons,
extended.
we don't need to extend it.
Because we need to really focus on facilities and salaries.
And I mean, I'll just say, I think the original proposal was actually a pretty decent proposal. I mean, it did have the aspect of not offering the health insurance approval, but it offered some financial incentive that you could purchase your own health insurance. So I don't think it was a bad offering, but, you know, I think the consensus of the board is that last year's offering would better entice those who want to go out on early retirement. So, do we have any other discussion? No? All right. I think we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, board comments.
I'd like to congratulate the Lee High School volleyball team on their successful season, and that most, if not all, of the members were nominated for the all-district team. And also congratulations to Coach Carson for being named Coach of the Year. Zach Trees also placed at state cross country. And I'd like to thank the ones who will be retiring at the end of the year for their years of service, and wish them the best in their retirement. And wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
Any other comments?
Yes, I'd like to thank the Board of Supervisors, Mr. Smith, and I and Dr. Austin took a little tour of Thomas Walker, and I think they've done another round today. Looking at buildings, I mean, that's the biggest concern, one of my biggest concerns anyway, is trying to fix some of these buildings. And you've got to be able to save money in this budget somewhere and somehow. And I know the E-RIF program is a huge amount of money, and we probably just didn't save much, but he's talking about ending it. I don't think nobody would be against that, with us trying to fix our building situation and the shape that some of them is. I also want to offer my heartfelt for sorry, Miss Marcia Hensley of Pinch, that lost her husband. She's a neighbor of mine, good lady, good teacher, and just send my condolences to her. I wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
I'd just like to thank you all that's here that are in my district, maybe some of you that's not. We about have a year under our belt as our 4-year term, and the feedback that I've got from you all of what we've changed, I feel that we've listened. We tried to do what was fair. We've tried to do what was best, and just always know that my door's always open, and because I have the same sight that you all do to make Lee County Schools the best that it can be, and I honestly think that we're going in that direction. So can't believe it's been almost a year that I've been part of this, but I'm excited to see what we have more to come. And I hope all of you have a very Merry Christmas.
I'll echo everybody else's thoughts and wish everybody a Merry Christmas, and glad to see a pretty decent crowd out tonight. Sometimes we start out in January and February, we actually thought about selling tickets because the place was just overcrowded, sell popcorn or whatever. Crowd kind of tamed down after a while, but we like to have a lot of people to come out and give us comments. We've had a lot of public input meetings during this school year so far, and going back to last year too, the end of the year. So we've tried to be accessible to people, teachers and staff and students and parents, and I've really enjoyed this year being on the board. So, and I'll enjoy not sitting in this seat next year, so somebody else could take over as chairman, and I'm sure we'll do a great job. So, anybody else have any comments? No? Next, we'll move to closed session. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to go into closed section, executive session. Personnel Code of Virginia 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia, student discipline. That's Code of Virginia 2.2-3711A2, and pending and threatened litigation, Code of Virginia 2.2-3711A7.
Do we have a second?
I'll say.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? We'll now go into closed session.